Hey everybody, we're regressing somewhat in this video. I am recording myself on my phone that I can only barely see because it's very bright outside. Because it's a lovely day outside and I need to take my dogs for a walk. Or my dog and my parents' dog. Anyway, so I figured while I'm doing that, I can do something fairly simplistic, which is have a nice conversation with the Speed Duels community about some cards. Cards that we're all aware of, and those of you who wish to get into Speed Duels because you're curious and it looks like fun. It is, by the way, I would like to point that out. Despite what I'm about to say about today's cards, it's very fun. These are just making it less fun. And that's entirely Konami's fault. So, cards that everyone knows are a problem are Zoma the Spirit and Nightmare Wheel. Both of which have been hit on the ban list, which is why I highly encourage you to play ban list. On top of the fact that if you don't, it's basically just Moth, Stall, Burn. And those aren't fun. I mean, Moth can be fun for a little bit, but man, that gets old real quick. So, since those got hit, Zoma's at 1, Nightmare Wheel's at 2. Nightmare Wheel doesn't much conflict with anything, so basically everyone's still just running 2 copies because there isn't really a reason to not run 2 copies. Unless you very specifically require something else that's on the 2 slot, like you are in dire need of Allure of Darkness, which most people are not, or you're playing machine unions, which means you actually do need to run Union Hanger, otherwise you're kind of hosed. Then again, with that skill nerf, there's no reason for it to be at limit 2. That's a different conversation. Beyond these 2, which really did exacerbate the stall burn problem, very much emphasizing the burn aspect with Zoma, and with Zoma at 1, burns kind of just fallen off. Was kind of the primary method of doing so. If you want to play burn, Blastsphere's still around, and it's not a bad card, honestly. Kind of amazed people aren't doing it. Also, Amazoness Swordswoman is just a decent card, and Wall of D doesn't do shit to it, so enjoy that. So burn is still around, but it's just not as disgusting as it once was, because Zoma takes out half your life points. But Nightmare Wheel is still an asshole, because it's a win condition in and of itself. It just stops a card from attacking, eats up a zone, and then burns you for 500. Gets a little obnoxious. There's, of course, a spell card that does the same thing, Mask of the Accursed. So, why is no one doing that? Well, it's not reactive, so that's a thing. That's kind of the only reason. It's not reactive. You have to play it on your own turn, so Nightmare Wheel's just better. And it's not like if we just banned a Nightmare Wheel, people would suddenly go to Mask of Accursed because it doesn't serve the same purpose. We should have been given Shadow Spell. That'd be just a way better card. Far healthier for the game. It's also a battle trick, which is far more fun. So, Nightmare Wheel at 2, what do? Just ban it? No, put other things to 2. Namely, the card I'm going to be talking about in this video. Floodgate Trap Hole. Okay. Floodgate is simultaneously not a horrific problem, but also a horrific problem. Floodgate is annoying as hell. Now, if you happen to be playing a deck such as Brothers Paradox, or a deck that happens to make heavy use of Jinzo or some other form of tributing, there's not a lot of good tribute monsters to begin with, then Floodgate doesn't do much, because you can just tribute the face-down monster, clear your zone, and continue on with what you were doing. The issue is 90% of decks don't do that. Cyber Angels don't really care, because they can just use the thing on the field for a ritual summon if they feel like it, which is kind of okay. So while Cyber Angels are capable of doing that, and anyone running Jinzo, which is at 1 in ban list, by the way, don't forget that, can just kind of deal with it, everyone else is just kind of hosed, and you can just sit on it for all of eternity. And then add in the fact that there's 2 Nightmare Wheel, and Jar of Avarice and Pharaoh's Treasure, and you can just play Deck Out. You can just play Stall as your win condition. Deck Out is very possible. Most people are only playing 20-card decks. I mean, there's some 22s and some 30s, but it's not very difficult to win doing that. And honestly, it's why a lot of people still think Stall is probably the best deck, despite the fact that you're not going to see it on a whole lot of tier lists, or I should say, results lists. Because it's boring to play, and even more boring to play against. Which is a problem. Now, I don't need to tell you that. You're smart enough to know that that's a problem. So you're probably saying, well, Hawk, what should we do about Floodgate? I propose it goes to 2. It's still good. still plenty playable, but now it is contesting with Nightmare Wheel, so you can't get both. Which is probably for the best. You could put it to 3, but I don't think that's that does enough, because you could still run 3 Floodgate and 3 Nightmare Wheel, which is what I'm trying to avoid here. It doesn't need to go to 1. Put Nightmare Wheel to 1. I'm fine with that. Then you can put Floodgate to 2. There you go. You have 3 stall tools. Now you have to start digging in the dumpster pile for more stuff if you want. Now you would think that I would be far more harsh to Floodgate Trap Hole, that I would despise this card far more than I do. I don't, because it's not actually the problem. Waking the fucking Dragon is the problem here. Oh yeah, I'm just throwing you guys off for a loop here. Okay? One moment, I gotta go find my parents' dog. Alright, we're back. Puppies, what are you gonna do? So, Waking the Dragon is the actual issue here. Now, I can already hear people going, wait, Floodgate's a problem. It is a problem. Nightmare Wheel is a problem. I mean, hell, technically Spellbinding Circle is a problem. But here's the thing about all of those. They die to back row removal. If you run Cosmic or you run Breaker, and you pop them, there's nothing they can do about it. It goes kaboo. End of discussion. Over and done with. No big deal. Wabaku is chainable, and it still does its effect, but Wabaku is just kind of a better card. It just stuns you for a turn, which is far more fair. It can only buy you 3 turns. Nightmare Wheel can buy you technically infinite turns. Floodgate can buy you technically infinite turns. Spellbinding Circle, which is way worse than Nightmare Wheel, could technically buy you infinite turns. You understand my point here. Waking the Dragon is the actual problem, because while we have hit a critical mass of stall-based spell trap cards, mostly trap cards, Waking the Dragon punishes the absolute hell out of you for trying to break them. I'm going to give you a situation here. Now, I'm going to use Gaia as the example, because I happen to kind of know Gaia as a deck. I'm not going to pretend that Gaia is some monumentally amazing deck that's some, oh, it's this dark horse that's, you're never going to see it coming. No, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a solid deck. I happen to enjoy it. It's very playable. It's very fun. So, Gaia's entire game plan revolves around summon Gaia, attack with Piercing 2300, draw cards, continue to cycle through these things. It also can't activate said cards. This is why it plays something like Wild Tornado and Double Cyclone in order to effectively just pop cards. It's way of interacting with things, because it can't activate most traps unless Gaia's not on the field. Then you can, and then things get weird. So pay attention to that if you run into a Gaia deck. They can activate Floodgate if Gaia's not on field. So, this sounds pretty decent. A normal summoned 2300 beater that has piercing, and you get to draw cards. Well, that sounds fabulous. Sounds like a fairly solid deck if you ask me, and I would agree with you. Problem is, it gets completely, absolutely hosed by those stall cards. Zoma, which you'll take a bunch of damage, you, as the Gaia player, will take even more damage, because you're going to go and eat 2300 to the face. Well, that sucks. Nightmare Wheel just locks your frickin' Gaia on the board. So if you are teching in some set cards to activate, your own Floodgate, your own Nightmare Wheel, you can't activate them, and they're just taking up spot in your back row. Floodgate just kind of hoses you, because you kind of lose momentum. And there's nothing you can do about a face-down Gaia. He's just there being useless. Now, he's got a 2100 ass, so that's like keeping you alive. But that doesn't help, so the hell do you do, right? They'll just sit there all day and do nothing. Now, Waking the Dragon comes in here is that you, as the Gaia player, are massively disincentivized from nuking back row blindly. And it's not like I can tell what the back row is. I don't have some way for you to know this. And before everyone goes, well, if they haven't activated it after several turns, I'm a Gaia player. I'm not trying to get the game to go for more than 5 turns. I want you dead, preferably on turn 4. My second battle phase. Because I want to go Gaia, attack, damage, and then summon another Gaia, damage, done. Game's over. That's the goal here. The goal is to end this game as fast as possible for me, because I am an aggro deck. Gaia is a blind aggro deck. It is all about just momentum. Oja Armed Dragons, or I'm going to call them Oja Dragons. You can yell at me if you want. Oja Dragons are like that. But they can handle this sort of stuff better, because I mean, I summoned a blue. Want to floodgate it? Cool. You're not getting rid of this card, because if you do, this is going to go badly for you. You have to pop it, which you don't want to do. So, you run into that problem with that deck kind of handles this a little better. All the other aggro decks don't. They're just kind of going, what the hell am I supposed to do? Nightbeam is a lot less good, because if Floodgate's not running everywhere, people would go to Wabaku. Well, Floodgate suddenly rises in value because it's chainable back row. Anytime chainable back row is being used, so during the era of Windstorm or Kunai, no, Kunai's on attack deck, ignore Kunai. So Windstorm or Zero Gravity, and Wabaku once we got it. Nightbeam, fabulous card, absolutely amazing. Dust Tornado is just a good card all around. Not for Gaia particularly, but you understand my point. Cosmic Cyclone, good card. All of these are way worse while Waking is lurking in the background. Now, it's not just, oh crap, I hit Waking. Well, this is mildly irritating. Someone summoned, you know, a Ryu Senshi. No, that's not what happens. They're going to summon, 1,000 Eyes. Well, depending on what just happened here, because you probably shot it immediately because it'd be kind of stupid not to, well, they could just summon Ojama King, who shouldn't have been in the game anyway, but that's a different argument. And now you can't even summon a monster until you pop that card, and you might not have a way to do that. Unless you also happen to have Wild Tornado sitting down, and then you can pop it, but that's a different problem here. In short, Waking massively disincentivizes back row removal, because if the Waking goes off, you just lost the game. Because just pick anything you're summoning off of it. 1,000 Eyes restrict, you can't attack and you need spell or trap based removal in order to kill it. And they just kind of have an infinite timer. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon or Cyber End Dragon if you're on low enough life points, or they just feel confident enough plowing into you. Particularly if you're a Gaia deck. Like, what the hell are you going to do to that? You just die. Ryu Senshi helps screw up traps, so he's good to insulate their own game plan. You get the point. I can kind of keep going. People summon Dragoon occasionally, who's just a 3k ass to sit on. Ojama King if the board is empty. It's an obnoxious card to deal with. Should never have been in the game, and really should just be banned. Because it is massively disincentivizing any aggro deck from existing. Because the aggro decks get stopped by all the back row. But unlike, say, Wall of D, which disincentivizes large swarming strats, which is fine. I think that's okay. I don't think Wall of D is a horrifically toxic card. I mean, it can be, but, you know, again, we can talk about that a different day. But if that's, say, for example, our Mirror Force, then Straight Flush is our Heavy Storm. Well, more accurately, it'd be more like Harpy's Feather Duster, but you understand my point. Now, it's not the best card. It has its problems. But if I did not have to worry about Waking absolutely blowing my ass out, I could play Straight Flush. And then any people who play back row heavy decks are disincentivized from running enough back row to fill up their entire back row. This, of course, is kind of a big slap in the face to Crystal Beasts, who tend to have exceedingly clogged back row, just by nature of what they are. It's fine. I'm not yelling at Crystal Beasts. You guys are completely fine. You're like the least horrifically toxic thing I've ever seen in my life. You're nothing. You're just cool. You're just a good deck all around. Okay? Go Crystal Beasts. I'm happy they're good. Anyway. Getting off topic here. My point is that Waking the Dragon stops me from doing that because there's almost guaranteed to be a frickin' Waking sitting back there. Oh no, you lost a Nightmare Wheel and a frickin' Floodgate. Oh damn, that sucks. I guess I get to have a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon now. Yeah, I think that's a fair trade. If I'm the guy getting the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. That is just such a punish, it's not even funny. Like, it's so harsh of a punishment for what you did. You did an exceedingly normal action for an aggro deck, which is get rid of back row so you can attack. What happened? They summoned a boss monster for free, and now you lose the game. That's not okay. That's not healthy. It's really bad for the game. I mean, literally just removing Waking, leaving everything else as it is, The game is in such an infinitely healthier state because the aggro decks can come to the fore. This is kind of like how when Spellproof Armor got nuked. I mean, I kind of think that might have been slight overkill, because now it can't even exist at all as a deck, which I have issues with, but that's, again, discussion for a different time. It's not here anymore, and we all agree Spellproof Jinzo was stupid and never should have been a thing to exist. But here we are. So, anyway, moving beyond that. Spellproof Jinzo was really just keeping everything else out of the meta because other things needed to do stuff, and having a card that just turns off all your traps is kind of bad for the game, and having no way to kill it outside of running it over is equally bad. So we all agreed that was a problem. So when that happened, suddenly everything was free. All these codecs were already good. They didn't get anything new. Nothing new happened here, other than Spellproof Armor got chucked out the window. And suddenly, all these decks are good now. Well, that's kind of weird. What the hell? Waking is the same way. It is bottlenecking basically every aggro deck in the game outside of specifically Oja Dragon. Gaia could be a good deck. I'm not going to say tier 1 ultimate deck. I am going to say rogue deck. I will happily say rogue deck, maybe tier 3. I think Gaia is a good deck. It's a very consistent deck. It knows its game plan. It does its game plan. It executes its game plan well. And it gets you a lot of good card advantage in there. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with Gaia. Like, you can run Skill Successor. That's a fun card. You can run Wild Tornado. That's a fun card. You get to do a bunch of stuff that normal people don't do because it works specifically for your deck. Ancient Gears would probably be a hell of a lot better without Waking the Dragon. Hell, they actually are decent even with Waking the Dragon because people play My Valentown. I prefer to call it My Town, but that's me. Anyway, it's No More Mrs. Nice My and Gear Town. So it's exactly what you think it does. Well, Ancient Gears are really good at putting damage on board, and that thing lets you pop cards, which is not a card effect, so you can blow up Waking the Dragon without fear. They have other problems, and those are mostly Floodgate related, but people feel safe playing all that back row because shit like Waking exists. Now, we can, of course, talk about Jar and Pharaoh's Treasure, but frankly, if we deal with the generic stall crap, those two don't matter anymore. Honest to God, I don't think they actually matter anymore. Because Jar is just kind of a decent card in a couple of decks. Like, I've seen some Volcanic decks play it unironically. I think I saw a Hero deck play it unironically. Basically, anyone playing Shell will at least think about Jar at some point, so I don't really hate the card, because it's fine. I mean, yes, it gets used for deck out crap, but it's not like that's difficult. You just play a 30-card deck, and then play anything that shuffles back into the deck. So, like, Royal Firestorm Guards would get played solely for that. Like, it's kind of dumb. So that's why I'm like, I don't care about Jar of Avarice, nor do I care about Pharaoh's Treasure. Those two are symptoms, not the cause of the problem. Those are simply enabled by a whole pile of other dumb shit. So really, if you want to take away from this video, Waking needs to get banned and Floodgate needs to wind up on the list somewhere. I mean, I'll accept it at 3. That's fine. Whatever, I guess. I would prefer it at 2, but that's me. With that being said, please, Konami, for the love of God, don't put any more generic stall tools in any more boxes. I know I'm asking for the universe with that one, but seriously, just don't. Also, don't be afraid to ban a couple of cards. I say a couple when I'm really referring to, like, one specifically, and it really is just one. Like, I do not want to deal with Waking the Dragon. It's a terrible fucking card, and she never should have been in this game. But here we are. So if Konami bothers to listen at all, listen to that, because I'm not the only one saying that. I might be the only one pitching this particular, concept, but there we go. So, as always, guys, I've been Hawk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. What do you guys think? Where should Floodgate wind up on the list? Because I think we all agree it should wind up on the list somewhere, and I think we all universally agree Waking was a mistake and should be banned. But what do you guys think? What other cards should wind up on there? Am I completely wrong about, Jar and Pharaoh's Treasure? Should they just get chucked out the window? I don't know. That's for you guys to decide. So, peace out, everybody.